Here there, your choice of viewing the daily happens all over the country. Today is April 28, 2023.
To distribute land not only to farmers and farm workers, but also to other non-less poor. This is the basic definition of the comprehensive agrarian reform program.
Thank you for the useful exposition. Agrarian reform, however, is more complex than that. Aside from the land reform, it also has ideas which modernize the traditional method of farming while improving the quality of lives with life using the agrarian practice.
Widening the agricultural knowledge and creating cooperatives which can provide input and credit. The making and processing of the farm produce and the establishing of a market for the created products are also part of the Agrarian Reform Act.
During the colonial period in the Philippines, there were people called caciques or landlords. These people held tremendous influence over the people who live and work on the lands they held such tremendous influence in the social and economic aspect, so much so that they abused their power and even dictated who the people should vote for. They also had political influence which they used to retain the status quo.
During the pre-colonial era, before the Spaniards came, the Philippines had a feudalistic system not too dissimilar to medieval European countries, wherein warriors are bound by pledge to warlords. The warrior class lived above the serfs and slaves but were ready to protect them and provide harsh justice. The structure of Filipino society goes something like this. The datos chiefs are the head with the most power and influence. The next, the maharlikas or the nobles. After that, we had the timawas or freemen. They are then followed by we had the timawas or freemen. They are then followed by serf, then finally the slaves. The freemen did not have to pay any form of taxation or whatsoever, but they had a pledge with the datu to always accompany him to wars. They also supplied their own weapons, set, manned, and controlled their own sails, built their own homes, and planted their rice paddies. The serfs served their masters, be it the datu, maharlika, and they took care of their land, constantly tilling and taking care of it. Both the serfs and their masters shared the harvest equally in half. The serfs also homes they can give to their children as legacy. In the case of slaves, they were fully owned by their masters. While getting a portion of the harvest, they are usually from wards of were born to be trained as farmhands. They were considered as property of their master, and their key can be sold. During this era, the medium for currency wasn't money but rather rice.
After landing the Philippines and discovering the rich archipelago, many Spanish settlers immediately set sight on the land and were divided and granted to the soldiers who served the royal family. They were called encomenderos. The terms for this award was that it was imperative that they must defend it from external forces, maintain peace and order within its borders, and aid the missionaries. Payment for these services encomenderos gained the ability to collect tribute to the natives, also called as Indios, in the amount and form as ordered by the royal government. The original structure of the encomienda was designed to aid the natives more rather than those governing it. Thus, the encomenderos were not lords or rulers of the surrounding territory. They were even considered as protectors, tutors, and advocates for the natives. However, the system turned into an abusive one with the abuse of powers by the encomenderos. The tributes they paid back then were now treated as rent. People who lived within the territory of the encomienda were now tenants of it. The encomenderos became the very first hacienderos in the Philippines. Meanwhile, the colonial government replaced the role datu, and the datus are now called cabeza de barangay. There were 4 classes of stateholders and proprietors, the first being Agustinian and Dominican, secondly the Spanish Peninsulares, the third being Crisolos and Mestizos, with the final being called the native principes. The Dominican friars leased their lands to natives and mestizos, which earned them the name of Inquilinos. The Inquilinos have a fixed rent on the land they cultivated, with the stateholder not being allowed to lease it other unless the leaseholder failed to pay for 2 consecutive years. A negative effect of this, however, was that the Inquilinos found a loophole by disposing of the land. They sold it or mortgaged it to wealthy people, or they subleased it to a much higher price compared to what they paid. This gave the Inquilinos more income than the actual state owners while doing little to no work at all. This became a system where native agricultural entrepreneurs took care of the land with the help of tenants who they hired on a sharecropping basis to lease the land to. However, with time, this system gradually changed to exploit tenants, even though the Spanish government was fully aware of this atrocity. It was never corrected. The people who the Kakyu class also took more land than what was rightful theirs.
With the dawn of the Philippine Revolution, these land practices soon came to halt, with land owners selling their lands due to the power imbalance in the government, which was magnified by the Declaration of Independence during 1898. The former President Emilio Aguinaldo declared the intention of the Filipino government, confiscating the large estates, especially the so-called Friars lands. The Malolos Constitution even planned to aid this by returning the rightful lands to the Filipino people. Yet this plan was never fully set in motion.
So much Agrarian and the land property using summarized by our fantastic reporters today. What to say, we tackle more recent part of history, one where it isn't too distant. While talking about history, we can also discuss more about the legal parts and the laws which surround it.
Good day, viewers! During the American region, which roughly lasted during 1901 to 1935, several laws during the time span were created to help standardize and regulate land tenures, some of which are going to be listed. The Philippine Bill of 1901 aimed to place particular restrictions on the sale of public lands. Land Registration Act of 1902, or Act Number 469, aimed to have land under torrent system as fully registered as per the regulations. Rice Share Tenancy Act of 1933, or Act Number 4054, controlled interaction between rice field landowners and tenants. Tennessee Act of 1933 or Act number 4113. This was intended to control the interaction between landowners and renters of sugarcane farms. During the beginning of the American era, 40,000 native farmers did not have the title to have land due to the defective laws that the Spanish government had. To remedy this, the American government started what is called as the torrent system, which is when a state produces and maintains a register of property holdings under the torrents title system for land registration and transfer, which acts as the irrefutable proof of ownership for both the proprietor listed on the register and all other recorded interests.
The Commonwealth period soon came after the American period. This lasted from 1935 to 1946. During that time frame, former President Manuel L. Quezon was seated as the president. A civil unrest was starting to take place in Tayug, Pangasinan due to the relationship of the land tenure and tenants, which was spearheaded by Pedro Calosa. This was called the Color Room Revolt in 1931. 4 years later, Benigno Ramos started the Sakdal Revolt in Cabuyao, Laguna. The problems at the time stemmed from the agrarian crisis and lack of social justice. The president at the time, Quezon, used this to strengthen and improve the laws, which was connected to the agrarian difficulties at the time. The Quezon administration started in 1935, which declared the promotion of social justice to ensure the well-being and economic security of all. During 1930, the Rice Tenancy Act was put in place, which required for the tenants and the landowners to share the harvest 50-50.
The history of laws and precedents which aided the agrarian and land reform movement is long and arduous. The following are the presidents of the time and what they did to aid the cause. Manuel Rojas, who served from 1946 to 1948, he established RA 4054, which confers 70-30 agreement between tenant and landlord. Provided that will shoulder the expenses, shall receive the 70% part of the harvest. This also reduced the interest on the landowner's loans from 10% down no more than 6%. Former President Elpidio Carino, who served from 1948 to 1953, established Executive Order Number 355, which replaced the former called National Land Settlement Administration to Land Settlement Development Corporation or LASIDECO, who took over the responsibility of Agricultural Machinery Equipment Corporation and Rice and Corn Production Administration. Under the term of former President Ramon Magsaysay, stayed in the office from 1953 to 1957, and the following were accomplished. Republic Act Number 1166, which created the National Resettlement and Rehabilitation Administration or NARA settlements in Palawan and some in Mindanao. Republic Act Number 1199 or the Agricultural Tenancy Act, which provided for the security of tenure for tenants. It also gave the choice for tenants to take a choice from shared tenancy to leaseholding. This also created the Court of Agrarian Relations, Republic Act Number 1400 or the Land Reform Act, which provided for acquisition of large tenanted rice and corn fields over 200 hectares if owned by individuals and 600 hectares if owned by corporations. Former President Diosdado Macapagal, who served from 1961 to 1965, RA number 3844 or the Agricultural Land Reform Code, it abolished shared tenancy, institutionalized leasehold, invested rights of preemption and redemption for tenant farmers,
provided machinery for implementation, and many more things, which also aided farmers.
Under the Marcos administration, RA number 6389 for the instituted Code of Agrarian Reform and created the Department of Agrarian Reform. Presidential Decree number 7 pleased the whole country under the Land Reform Program. Presidential Decree number 27, which restricted land reform scope for tenanted rice and cornfields. Two important aspects of land distribution: determination of the land to be transferred and financing or fixing the value of land at a relatively modest rate. Coverage of Presidential Decree number 27, all tenanted private agricultural land devoted to rice and corn in excess of 7 hectares. The priorities of coverage shall be: number 1, larger than 24 hectares. Number 2, less than 24 hectares, but not lower than 12 hectares. Number 3, 12 hectares less retention limit. The beneficiaries of PD 27 are bona fide tenant farmers of private land devoted to rice and corn. They are benefited with 3 hectares of land for irrigated and 5 hectares of land for non-irrigated. The retention limit of PD 27 is that landowners can own up to no more than 7 hectares of land. Former President Corazon Aquino, whose term lasted from 1986 to 1992, she implemented many executive orders, laws, and proclamations. Starting off, we have Proclamation number 131. This institutionalized the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, or CARP. Executive Order 129A. This reorganized, streamlined, and expanded power and operation of DAR. Executive Order number 228 declared full ownership to qualify to farmer beneficiaries of PD 27. Executive Order number 229 provided a mechanism for the implementation of CARP.
Republic Act number 6657 was to aid the CARP, which was also known as the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law, which was signed on June 10, 1988 by President Aquino herself. Existing laws such as RA number 3844 and Presidential Decree 27 just stay consistent with the other laws and will only have supplementary effects. Executive Order 129A, this was made to strengthen the power of DAR for it to be the only one implementing the CARP. The Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law, or RA 6657, was created after nearly a year of debates, signed on June 10, 1988. It was immediately effective on June 15, 1988. To strengthen the CARP and speed up its implementation, President Aquino issued 3 executive orders in June of 1990. They are the Executive Order number 405, which made the Land Bank of the Philippines to review the value of land. Executive Order number 406, which made the CARP a central part of the government's speed of the modernization of agrarian and land reform and farming. Executive Order number 407, M24, all government branches including financial institution and corporation to turn over suitable farming land to DAR for farming under the CARP. Even more, the 1987 Constitution, which was ratified on February 2, 1987, which contains several provisions which deals with agrarian reform.
And that's all the time we have for today, vlogs. Hopefully, we discovered the ins and outs of agrarian and land reform with its roots in history.
Yes, aloha. This was certainly an enlightening lesson on the laws which took place to help out our farmers.
This has been the Heralder, hoping for your viewing pleasure. Hopefully, we help you and find more knowledge and wisdom both news anchor and unison. Salamat and hopefully we see each other again. Paalam kabayan.